Welcome to the Grants Gateway. This online tutorial is designed for your New York State grantee organization to provide guidance for the process of applying online for a grant via the automated grant system that we call the Grants Gateway. Today we will provide a brief overview of the system and then review the process that a grantee should follow in order to find a grant to apply for and follow the application process through to submission. We assume that you have already registered in the Grants Gateway, have a username and password, and are assigned the role of grantee in the system. If you are a not-for-profit, we assume that you have already registered and pre-qualified. If you have not registered or do not have login credentials or are not pre-qualified, you should view the related Grantee Document Vault tutorial video first. Finally, we will review the tools available to you in order to smoothly make this transition. To begin using the Gateway, click on the Grants Gateway login at the top left corner of the Grants Gateway. If you have more than one username and role, make sure you log in with your grantee account. In the Login section, enter the username and password. Usernames are typically first initial, last name, and a number. If you try to log in twice and you get a warning that your password is not correct, do not attempt to log in a third time or you will be locked out for 15 minutes. After 2 attempts, click on Forgot Password right below the login information and enter the username and email address. You will be emailed a new password within minutes. Here we are logged in as a grantee. The View Opportunities link lets you see what opportunities are available. My inbox contains system or state agency messages for you. First, we will take a look at the tasks that are underway and assigned to this user by clicking on Open Tasks. There are 2 applications in process for this not-for-profit that we named Video Tutorial NFP. For this demonstration, we will start a new application from the beginning. You will be able to save your work and pick up where you left off by returning to your home page, clicking the Open Tasks link, and choosing the application you wish to continue. Click on the View Available Opportunities link above to begin the application process of a new grant opportunity. On the Available Opportunities page, a high-level list of open solicitations is presented. You can see that funding agency, release date, and due date are listed along with the eligible entities that may apply for a specific grant. To learn more about the specific grant and begin the application process, click on the name of the grant opportunity. Today, we will apply for the DCJS Demo 2013 Alternatives to Incarceration Program. More details about this specific grant opportunity are presented. We learned the contact person and their email address. Full announcement details are described on the right, including release date, funding rounds, anticipated contract length, target population, and so on. To learn more about the announcement from the agency's website, click on the announcement link. To begin the process of applying for the grant, click on the Apply for Grant Opportunity link in the bottom left of the page. This is the application main page. We can see the grant name, DCJS Demo 2013 Alternative to Incarceration Grant, and the system has named our application DCJ01 ABCD 2013 00001. We are the first application for this particular grant. As we proceed through the application process, the application properties in the lower left corner of the page will be filled in. To complete the application, we will double-click the Forms menu and work our way through each of the required forms. First, we see the Attachment A1 Program-Specific Terms and Conditions and the Attachment A2 Federal-Specific Terms and Conditions. These 2 documents will be attached to the standard New York State Master Grant contract to provide the terms and conditions that are unique to this program. You should download and read these documents prior to submitting for this grant. Program information forms include project and site addresses and program-specific questions that you will need to answer. The next section is the budget section that we will discuss in detail shortly. Below the budget area, forms you will see are the work plan including objectives and tasks, and an area where uploads are accomplished if required. We will discuss each of these forms in detail. Now we will scroll back toward the top and click on the first form to fill in, which is the project site addresses. On the project site addresses page, enter a site name and the appropriate address information. When complete, select Save at the top right corner of the page. To add a second address, click on the Add button in the top blue ribbon. When more than one address is saved in the system, a pull-down menu will appear which gives you an option to go to any of the previously saved addresses. For each address, a regional council or an agency-specific region may be requested. Your application form may differ depending on the requirements of the funding agency. Return to the Forms menu to continue with the next area, Program-Specific Questions. Program-specific questions are those questions posed to the grantee applicant concerning their suitability to deliver a program or service, and may in fact reflect the criteria used to review and score applications. There may be several questions or none depending on the grant opportunity. Response types to questions include not applicable, NA, yes, no, or narratives of 250, 500, 1,000, or unlimited characters. Responses may be required or optional. Required responses are indicated by a red asterisk. Uploads may or may not be required. The points assigned for the value of the question may be displayed if the question is used for scoring applications during review. In this very simple demonstration, 4 questions have been provided. The first question requires a typed response and is worth 10 points. The second question does not require an answer, but an upload is required. We have uploaded a PDF file called Test Grant. The third question requires a yes or no answer and an upload. And finally, the fourth question is optional. Your questions will, of course, be relevant to the grant you are applying for. When complete, click Save. For a long set of questions, you should save along the way. Next, we will return to the Forms menu by double-clicking and begin working on the next section, the expenditure budget. In the budget section, here in Expenditure Budget, you will need to fill in the budget categories that the state agency has decided are relevant to this grant. The budget summary is where your overall budget will be displayed. Individual budget lines will be added in the areas below, such as personal services, salary, contractual, and so on. There are 10 budget categories that the agency can choose for a specific grant using the expenditure budget. While particular categories may be allowed by the agency, they may not apply to your particular needs. You may skip any budget category for which you will not request funding. Match, administrative, and revenue worksheets may be required by the state agency. To begin the process, click on the budget items that you choose to include. We will begin with personal services salary by clicking on that link. On the personal services salary page, we are entering our second set of salaries for the grant. Note the drop-down at the top right of the page. Position or title and responsibility are required fields. We have indicated 2 people in this title. Salary and funding data is provided. The total for this page is $40,000, and the entire total for the budget category is currently at $65,000. The first item's detail can be viewed by using the drop-down menu at the top. Note that the total match funds and total other funds are grayed out. The agency has chosen that these will not be included in this category. To add a third item to this category, save and click Add. When complete for this category, return to the Forms menu and choose the next category that you would like to apply grant dollars towards. We will choose the Contractual category. The Contractual Services section should include costs for services rendered to the project under a formal or written agreement, such as direct provision of services by contractual arrangement. If contractual detail is not applicable, leave this section blank. Fill in all required fields. Here the agency has chosen that matching funds should be included. Other funds should not be and are still grayed out. After saving, you could click on Add to include additional contractual budget lines if appropriate. Next, we will move on to the Travel Budget category by returning to the Forms menu and clicking on Travel. This section is used to itemize travel costs. Match funds are included, but other funds are not. Note that there are two separate lines added in this case. You can enter as many as appropriate for your application. To view a different line, choose from the drop-down menu, select the item you would like to view and click the Go button. If there are many line items, you can click on the category Total Summary, which is available on all budget entry screens. This demonstrates the category summary for the travel budget. This is especially useful if there are a large number of items for any one category. This is displayed on the screen but can also be exported to Excel, CSV, text, or XML by choosing the option in the Export Results to selection. This screen opens up a separate browser tab. When complete, close the tab to return to the original screen. Once back on the original page, return to the Forms menu to select the next budget category you need to complete. We will choose the Equipment category. On the Equipment page, we enter the appropriate details. Match funds and other funds are not available on this category, and they are grayed out. Like all category types, there are instructions to follow on the page. One additional question on this page is whether the equipment is purchased or rented. This is a required field and must be selected prior to saving. A narrative is required for the Equipment category. In order to provide the equipment narrative, click Save and use the Forms menu to select the equipment narrative. Here is the equipment narrative form. All budget categories provide for optional narrative detail, a link for which appears after you have saved one or more lines in this category. All narratives must be filled out in a similar manner, but it is important to note that if you include equipment in your budget, a narrative is required. You should provide documentation regarding bids received for equipment purchases. This field can be used to reference additional documents that are submitted with the application. You should provide a justification for any exceptional equipment purchase or rental costs. For example, a program may have a dollar threshold above which equipment purchases must be justified. For an ongoing or multi-year contract, justification is required for new items only. After completing the narrative, use the Forms menu to proceed to the next budget category. We will now move to review the budget summary and the worksheets. On the expenditure budget summary, the specific budget items that we have added on the category screens have been rolled up and displayed as shown. In our specific example, other funds were not allowed, and match was allowed on only 2 categories. If needed, we could go back and add additional details, and the expenditure budget summary would be updated as appropriate. Now we will move on to the worksheets. First, we will select the Match worksheet from the Forms menu. On the match worksheet, the applicant provides additional information regarding the source of the matching funds, a description of the source, and the match amount. If there are additional matching lines, you can click Add above in the blue ribbon and add as many match lines as you need. Next, we will look at the revenue worksheet. Here is the revenue worksheet. As before, we will provide the source of revenue funds and describe the source. In this case, the form of documentation required field is a mandatory field to be entered prior to saving. The revenue amount will, of course, need to be added as well. Here is the format of the administrative worksheet. In this very simple example, there is only one category of administrative costs included. Only the salary component has administrative costs, and they are $15,000 out of the $65,000 total that was input on the salary component. Be sure to enter $0 figures for the budget lines that you choose not to include. The next step will be to move to the work plan. Return to the Forms menu and select Work Plan Overview form. The Work Plan Overview form provides high-level information to the granting state agency to determine your overall capacity and appropriateness to provide services to the state. You can see that work plan period dates are required. Here we have entered dates for the 2014 calendar year. Provide an overview of the project, including the overall goal and desired outcomes. Include information such as location, target population, overall number of persons to be served, service delivery methods, and hours of operation. For organizational capacity, describe the staffing, qualifications, and ongoing staff development and training activities and relevant experience of the provider organization to support the project. When complete, click Save and move on to the specific objectives and tasks for the project. When an agency sets up the grant application, they have the option to set up the objectives themselves, or they can leave it to you as the grantee to determine the details of the work plan. For our application, we will use the agency-created general objectives, but we'll discuss the grantee-originated objectives and tasks shortly. In this case, there is only one objective with two separate tasks. Here you can see the objective name and the objective description. You can also see that there are two tasks. Click on the View Add link to define your performance measures. For each task, we need to provide a performance measure against which to measure progress and success. We had two tasks to complete, and one of them was to hold weekly sessions for improvement and report the number of sessions held per month. Our performance measure is called Hold Weekly Sessions, and the number expected is 4 per month. Toward the top right corner of the screen, there is a drop-down to view other performance measures we have added. The Add button becomes available after the first performance measure is saved. Continue the process until complete for all objectives, tasks, and performance measures. If the funding agency has opted to have you define the objectives and tasks, the screen will look as shown. Work through the process as before, but you will need to define the objectives and tasks. You add additional objectives, tasks, and measures by clicking on the Add button at the top blue ribbon. Always remember to save before moving on. We are nearly ready to submit. Next, we have chosen Pre-Submission Uploads from the Forms menu. We have only one required, a project plan. In this case, the agency has provided a document template for you labeled testgrant.pdf. Click on the document template and download it to your computer. After you have completed it offline, click the Browse button, browse to the completed document, upload it, and click Save. Other required uploads may be documents the agency wishes you to provide, such as copies of third-party contracts. There is one more step to take before submitting the application. Click Check Global Errors in the top blue ribbon. The system will check your application for completeness. If you have missed a required form, a link to that form will be displayed. Our application is complete and ready to submit. Click to return to the Forms menu. In order to submit your application, double-click on the Status Changes link, then click on the Application Submitted Apply Status button. Prior to final submission, you will need to certify to the agreement as stated. Please read the paragraph closely and click on I agree. If you select I do not agree, your application will not be submitted. Once your application is submitted, you are returned to the application main page. If you hover over the Status Changes link, you will see that there are no available status options at this time for you. Congratulations, your application has been submitted. Now we will discuss the tools available to you as you work your way through this process. The Grants Reform Initiative website can be found at grantsreform.ny.gov. By clicking on the Grantees tab at the top of the page, you can find numerous quick links on the left side of the page for information and samples that you will need to complete the process. More video tutorials such as this one are available on the Videos tab and on our YouTube channel. You will find several training materials within the Grants Gateway itself. Click on the Training Materials link in the top black ribbon. For technical assistance, you can contact our Grants Gateway Help Desk at 1-800-820-1890 or via email at helpdesk@agatesoftware.com, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Questions about completing applications can be emailed to grantsreform@budget.ny.gov. Questions regarding specific opportunities or applications should be directed to your funding agency. Thank you for your attention, and here is a quick reminder of the tools available to you to complete this important process.